Welcome to Château Rigaud, an independent, family-owned wedding and events venue in a fortified medieval chateau surrounded by Bordeaux vines. The tower dates from the 12th century, when the Knights Templar would pass through on their way to the Crusades. From its elevated position, the chateau overlooks the battlefields of the 100 Years' War, which ended with the defeat of the English and the Brits, handing the vines back to the French. It's a 5-minute drive from the historic town of Castillon-la-Bataille, which has supermarkets, banks and a railway station. We're in the middle of nowhere, but not far from civilization. In medieval times, the chateau would have been a thriving, self-contained community. Today, these ancient walls, terraces, gardens and barns provide the perfect backdrop for weddings and events, with multiple options for staging a ceremony, formal or informal dinners, canapés, drinks and dancing. We couldn't hope for a better setup. It's the perfect party chateau. Welcome to Château Rigaud. I'm Anna and this is my husband Abe.
We bought the chateau back in 2003. Here's a picture of us with the kids when they were tiny. We thought it would be a 5-year project, but here we still are, 22 years later, and still thriving on the day-to-day madness.
We love it here and we hope this film will show you why. There are plenty of beautiful chateaux in France. Many of them have better turrets, moats and tree-lined drives than Rigaud. What sets Rigaud apart from the rest is the food. Food is our primary focus, and unlike most chateau venues, we have our own brilliant brigade of chefs, working under the direction of head chef John Grabecki. John understands the seasons and the setting, and while his training was classic French, he's just as comfortable turning out wood-fired pizzas as he is crafting a contemporary tasting menu. The chefs are also happy catering for vegans, vegetarians, gluten-free, lactose-free and more. We're very lucky because not every chef in France is quite this flexible or open-minded. So John, what's on the menu this weekend?
We've got poached salmon. We've got a poached salmon dish with a rice cracker. And then for the veggies is this lovely asparagus with the buttermilk split dressing with some basil oil. And then we've got beef fillet on the wedding night with the beetroot puree, the beef beignet, and then George is prepping the pork shoulder for Sunday.
So tell me about the produce. What are we cooking with?
We've got the garden up the top there in the potager, about 100 metres that way. So Teresa's put the aubergines in, the strawberries are coming through, and obviously we've got those nasturtiums popping around everywhere. But the courgette, the leaves are just coming out now, which is
nice.
Great. And we're super, super lucky. It's incredible. But anything we can't grow up there comes from Luc Alberti, our veg supplier. Very, very prestigious business he has. Bonjour, ça va?
Oui, bien.
Merci, merci. And then we've got Christian Pons in Pomerol for our pork, beef and lamb. So yeah, really, really lucky.
Of course, we can't film an entire wedding weekend. Each one is so personal, we don't want to cloud your vision with someone else's story. But we've chosen a selection of our favourite moments in a wedding booking, and they mostly involve eating. There's always a cake at Rigaud, and a cheeky glass of fizz to go with it. It sets the tone, and it makes your guests feel comfortable. It's a Rigaud signature thing, along with the fully stocked bar on arrival, the coffee machine and syrups. The cake is always presented with style, which shows again how our team are always on hand, making things look perfect. So while we don't have stuffy hotel rules, we do have 5-star standards of service. Here we are at Bistro Rigaud with some of my lovely team. You'll meet more of them later in the pizza garden. We focus hard on team bonding, so tonight's a great excuse for a get-together and to show you how this space can be used. Consider Bistro Rigaud as an extension of the chateau. It's another dining room that happens to be 2 kilometres away, down by the river. It's owned and run by the chateau team and used exclusively for our wedding bookings. The perfect setting for your rehearsal night dinner. It's a rural French bistro. If you want an impressive, super polished rehearsal night dinner, perhaps at a wine-producing chateau in Saint-Émilion, then we can recommend some very smart places that we can work with. But the bistro is of excellent quality, very charming, and a great contrast to the next day at the chateau. As your guests arrive, they'll see the rotisserie machine turning, giving the bistro marché nocturne vibes. Dinner begins with generous shared platters. From experience, we know that guests can be quite excitable on this first night. They might move places at the tables, so the sharing style works really well. For the main course, the rotisserie chickens arrive at the table as whole birds, which is where the fun begins. Our waiting team will spot a couple of ringleaders per table and ask them to carve for their group. We hand them the carving knives and poultry scissors and off they go. It sounds messy and I wasn't sure it would work at the start, but in fact it's a brilliant icebreaker for guests who might never have met one another. And it's a great way to kick off the weekend. People always rave about the beauty of this place. It's rustic, relaxed and quintessentially French. Breakfast at Rigaud is quite a spread. It starts with a run to the best boulangerie in Castillon for croissant, pain au raisin and chocolatine, along with some truly phenomenal French bread. Then there's our homemade granola and banana bread for further carb loading, balanced with hams, cheeses, eggs, fresh fruit, yoghurt, smoothies, and even our famous turmeric and ginger shots. Not for the faint-hearted, but a great hangover cure. We've got avocados and tomatoes from award-winning Luc Alberti, a bit of a local hero. Honestly, there's something for everyone. It's all laid out as a buffet, so guests can pile their plates and choose to sit in the dining room or out on the terrace. And if you'd like to add a cooked dish, say a spicy shakshuka or scrambled eggs with smoked salmon, we can easily arrange for one of our chefs to come in and prepare it for you in the morning. As lovely as the chateau is, it's still good to get out. Castillon, our closest market town, is on the banks of the Dordogne and good for a coffee or food shopping. But the star attraction is the UNESCO World Heritage Site and wine village of Saint-Émilion. The claim is that this is where the Romans first started French wine production. There are numerous Michelin-starred establishments, including the 2-starred Hotel Pavie, and my own favourite, Logis de la Cadenne. Bordeaux city is an hour by car. I love watching the tables come together, always with a different look. You have the choice to eat in the barn or on the terrace. Outside, under the stars, is lovely, but inside gives you more options for candlelit chandeliers, the gorgeous candle shelves, and making a big impact with the entrance doors.
So whereabouts are the couple seated? Brilliant thing about a Rigaud wedding is that all of our team are in-house. They're here throughout the whole of the season. These include in-house florists, sign writers, planners and front of house team who all come together to make the perfect wedding.
Your final night at Rigaud is something we really care about. This is the end of your wedding journey and it's important to make it memorable. It needs to be considered. You don't want the feeling that it just fizzled out. The pizza garden is the perfect solution. It provides a low-key but strangely glamorous supper. I should add here that some couples want to party hard until late on the final night, and we can discuss that too. But for most weddings, there are between 20 and 30 chateau guests remaining, and without some direction, the atmosphere can fall really flat. So imagine that around 7 p.m, after your pool party, when your off-site guests have gone back to their accommodation, you and your chateau guests can wander up to the vegetable garden and discover this beautiful scene. The potager dressed with festoon lights and candles, the tables laid properly, the chefs pulling pizza in and out of the wood-fired oven in their whites, all under the watch of our Rigaud scarecrow. It's such a great way to round things off. When we have our own big party here every year, eating in the vegetable garden is my favourite night. It's a really magical end to your whole Rigaud experience. It's difficult to capture the scale of the chateau on camera, but I'm hoping this film will give you some idea of the atmosphere and also the layout. Shall we go inside? So here we are in reception, and as you can see, we've painted the walls very dark grey. It was on purpose because the bridal gowns look absolutely fantastic in the photographs against this backdrop. Looking down over the balcony onto the stairs is a great shot for the dress. And another great shot is the bride framed in the doorway before she walks down the aisle. These loos are used by guests during the ceremony and the canapé reception. I love this picture. She's such a beauty. The piano lounge is a calm space and wonderful with the fire lit for canapes before dinner in the autumn and winter. We keep the piano tuned in case you have a talented musician in your guest list. It's a Bechstein concert grand. Are you inviting any children to the wedding? If you are, we've got it all covered. We have a fleet of English-speaking nannies and all the cots, high chairs, books and toys you could hope for. The cinema is a brilliant space and a great spot to entertain the children during the wedding night. And now finally, onto the bedrooms, starting with the jardin, the only bedroom on the ground floor of the chateau. It's also where I get to introduce our confessional shower room concept. We didn't want to carve up the beautiful proportions of the space, so the shower and loo are cleverly hidden like built-in wardrobes. We've used the same idea again in one of the upstairs bedrooms. It keeps the scale of the room intact without losing any of the comfort. So this is the Maroc lounge, but obviously in the past it must have been a kitchen, because that is a stone sink with a tap. And over there we've got a medieval stove, but I'm really not sure that Chef John would want to use it. And just through this door is the spa with a professional massage bed. We can arrange for a masseur, just give us a little notice. We call this part of the house the Maroc end. It's got real medieval Crusader meets Morocco vibes. This is the biggest of our bedrooms. It's a whopping 7 square metres, and it's the view from this window that really sold us the whole place. The bathroom here is watched over by Gustave. We think he looks a bit like Gustave Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame, who also built the bridge in our local town of Castillon. And here's another little secret, the owlery. It's a super sweet space for a couple of little people, and best of all, if you're up for a quiet night, you can just lock the door. It actually makes a lovely little family suite, and we can adapt the bed layout to suit you, whether that's twin beds, a cot, or whatever works best. This is the Borgie. It's my favourite room. There's something about the light in here. The way it hits the fireplace is just magnificent. There's also a single bed, so it's effectively a twin, although you might have to fight about who has the 4-poster. The Dauphin, and this is a good moment to talk about what sets our bedrooms apart. The curtains in every room are interlined with blackout felt, so when the sun rises in the east and beams straight through these windows, your guests won't be rudely awakened. The beds are all super king size and dressed with the finest Egyptian linen. Guests often ask where we buy our sheets. We use the same linen supplier as the Savoy and the Ritz in London. The boudoir. Brace yourself. The paint colour is called Rangwali, and yes, it's bold. But it reminds me of holidays in India. It's a room for a princess, really bright, joyful and full of character, with a lovely walk-in shower to match. The Aquitaine, another lovely bedroom with a separate bathroom, and it can interconnect with the boudoir through the door. This is the ballroom, and it is a bit rock and roll in here. When we first chose the colours, I was a little bit terrified because people didn't really paint rooms dark blue 20 years ago. But as you can see, it is magnificent. Photographers love it, and it's been featured in quite a few magazines and even a couple of interiors books. A quick word of warning though, it's directly above the piano lounge, so it's not the quietest spot in the house. Best to put your night owls in here, not your light sleepers. And here's an example of the bathroom amenities. We use L'Occitane products, since it's a quality French range, and we like to throw in a few extras, like pillow mist, hand cream and skin buffers. Because the first thing I do when I check into a hotel is rummage through the free stuff. This is the Prussian, which is one of 5 principal bedrooms that we have in the chateau, which is great because it gives you lots of choices about where you put the important people, like parents and other VIPs. We recommend the tower suite for the couple, but along with that, the Maroc, the ballroom, this room, the Prussian, and the barrel room over in the vineyard barn are all wow factor rooms, and it's surprisingly helpful to have this amount of choice when you come to your allocations. And here we are in the long gallery leading to the tower, with room for hairdressers, makeup artists, photographers, and, of course, champagne. The tower, or bridal suite, is the perfect place for pre-wedding preparation parties. The colour scheme here is soft and neutral, with a magnificent fireplace, which looks really striking in the preparation shots. So the key point about this room is you have got complete control of the chateau from these windows. From here, you can look out and you'll know if Auntie Phyllis is wearing a crazy hat. You'll know exactly where all of your guests are sat before you have to walk out down the aisle. It might sound silly, but for the bride to have that quiet moment of control, that little bit of knowledge before she steps out through the front door is surprisingly calming. So, another lovely bathroom with a beautiful floor, but what makes this even more special is that if you go through into the tower, you'll find a shower. It's an actual tower shower. And one last thing, the dress has a room of its own, steps up to the hook, and a curtain to keep it secret. The dining room links reception with the kitchen. We can seat up to 24 guests in one long table here, although it is a bit of a squeeze. If we bring in a different table arrangement, then we can seat 30, but it's less elegant. Now we're back at the Chateau kitchen, which is a bit of a show space really, since the serious cooking goes on in the more commercial kitchen connected to the wedding barn. But this is a beautiful space, and as you can see, it's connected to the absolute hub of the Chateau, which is, of course, the bar. The Rigaud bar is like a strange vortex. You walk in at 9 p.m, and then it's 3 a.m, and you have no idea what just happened.
This is a Rigaud martini.
We stock the shelves with 5 full complimentary bottles of spirits, a selection of mixers, and various random liqueurs for your arrival. We can provide experienced cocktail staff for special moments, but most of the time the bar is self-serve, which is part of the charm of the Chateau. Your guests will love to mix themselves drinks. There's always a cocktail genius among them. They'll leave a terrible mess, but our team are on hand to clear up while you guys party on. It's all part of the service, and we expect the bar to be given a good workout. So, we've explored the main Chateau accommodation, and now a quick whistle-stop tour of the vineyard barn. It's around 100 metres away from the main Chateau, close enough to feel part of the party, but far enough away for a bit of peace and quiet when you need it. Every booking allocates their rooms differently, but this is a great space for one side of the family, or for groomsmen, or for the older guests. There are lots of ways to arrange things. And around 90% of our couples offer the accommodation here for their guests to book and pay for themselves. When we first bought the Chateau, this barn had an earth floor and was filled with classic sports cars and concrete wine vats. These days, it's a beautiful barn conversion with a more contemporary design theme than the Chateau, and it can be a great space for an after party on the wedding night if you fill it with the night owls. The guests staying here still enjoy the main house for breakfast, so no one misses out on the croissant or the coffee. Well, that's the end of our little tour. You might want to rewind and pause to take in the detail. You should also do a search on the internet for reviews and wedding videos, and of course check us out on Instagram, both our profile and the hashtag. If you think Rigaud is the place for you, then get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Bye for now.